This episode of The Luminous is a new beginning. It is a departure of sorts and a new direction for this project. When I started The Luminous a year ago, and the tagline for The Luminous, if you listen to the intro and you look on the artwork that I use, there's the tagline, human consciousness, personal sovereignty, and spiritual transformation, and bringing them down to earth. That's still really the intention behind this. And really, if I'm honest, that's the intention behind everything that I do within the context of my practice. I love, and I have a gift, a real ability to take very, very high level abstract spiritual concepts, or just concepts in general, and distill them down, open them up, sort of pick them apart, so to speak, dismantle them, and make them accessible. For me, what's important is that it's grounded, it's real, it's accessible, it's practical, and effective. I think a lot of spiritual information and a lot of spiritual content often falls into this arena of very, very high level, very woo-woo, for lack of a better term, information. And there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly don't judge that, and I myself personally love that kind of information. But I think what's really important is when we are in the reality of our human experience, when things feel challenging, or we're lost, or we're uncertain, or we've just had our spiritual awakening, or we're in the midst of the spiritual journey and things are falling apart, things are reforming and reorienting themselves, what we really need is real information, accessible information, information that is simple not only to understand, but to apply to our lives starting today, starting now. So this new series within the context of the Luminous, I'm calling client calls. And within these client calls is the opportunity for you to not only see how I work with clients in real time, but also to hopefully gain some wisdom and some insight to apply to your own experience in your own life starting today. So this is going to be a series of conversations that I'm having with real individuals who are coming with real questions, real issues, real curiosities, and we unpack them and unbox them in real time. All of these conversations were recorded live. All of them are the first take. That is to say, there was no rehearsal, there was no preparation. We simply connected. They offered their question, they offered their issue or their curiosity, and I offered my time and my presence. And we got the very beautiful, exciting, wonderful experience of seeing what came through in real time. And that's what I'm sharing with you here today. If you're listening to this on a streaming platform, you're going to obviously be hearing the audio version. If you're watching this, then you're on my YouTube channel, because another thing that I have decided to do is sort of repurpose my YouTube channel as a way to share the audio and video versions of these conversations. So if you're interested in watching this conversation and seeing the video footage of me engaging with these clients, you can go to my YouTube channel, Amar Energy, and you can watch the conversation as it unfolded in real time. Obviously, you can continue to listen to the audio only if that's what works for you. But I just wanted to let you know that there are some other choices and other options. Today, my conversation is with Karen. Karen had a question that really revolved around, am I procrastinating? Or is it just a matter of timing? That's what we're going to talk about today on The Luminous. Welcome to The Luminous, the podcast where we shine a light on human consciousness, personal sovereignty, and spiritual transformation and bring it down to earth. My name is Amar. For over a decade, I've supported people in reconnecting with their divine gifts, inner wisdom, and creative abilities. You are far more powerful than you've been led to believe. I intend to help you reclaim that power. My name is Amar, and this is The Luminous. Hello, everybody. It's me, Amar, your fearless and fabulous host of The Luminous. I am really, really excited about today's episode. I am really excited about this first installment of what I am calling the client calls. And today's conversation is with Karen. And I'm going to read to you her question in its entirety, how she emailed me. It says, Amar, how do I know when I am just procrastinating or blocking myself, or am following my intuition that tells me to sit tight and wait? So really, I'm asking, should there always be a momentum in any direction until the right path shows itself? I love this question. And I think it's an important one because as we discuss in today's client call, sometimes there is a time for acting and doing and choosing. That's our masculine self, the one that goes out and is the hammer looking for a nail, so to speak. And then sometimes it's about being on our feminine self, our receptive self, our internal feeling, sensing, and simply being energy. And I know that sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to discern which is which. Karen is an entrepreneur. And I understand as a fellow entrepreneur how sometimes one of the most challenging things can be to sense like, should I just be getting shit done right now? Should I just be sitting down and kind of forcing myself to go through my to-do list to finish a project or accomplish something specific? Or is this the time to simply be in a more receptive, more, abstract and just sort of being and kind of floating and going with the flow kind of mode? I think ultimately, there are things that we just have to do as humans, right? We live in an experience where we got to show up, right? The bills are due on the 1st or the 15th. I have to go, into the drugstore to get my medication. I have to go to the store to buy the groceries or the things that I need. So there are things in our life that we simply just have to do. It's currently a part of the human experience. And until such time as our instant manifestation abilities are completely restored, we can't really wave a magic wand and have things just appear before us. And I also think that humanity is in the middle of a transition from productivity for productivity's sake, from doing because that's what we're supposed to do. And this old idea that we always have to be doing something, that we always have to be producing, we always have to be creating, and you got to buck yourself up and you got to work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And if you're not working, if you're not creating, if you're not contributing, that somehow you're a leech or you're lazy or you are a bad human. And so what Karen and I talked about today are some ways that she can begin to navigate the moments where she's unclear. What we talked about and what I offered her were some very real practical tools to begin to discern. Is this a doing time or is this a being time? Is this a time for me to simply be and be present and to allow? Or is it a time for me to roll up my sleeves, get my hands in the dirt, and get to work, so to speak? There's also another piece that we talked about, which I think is really, really important, is it is time for us to begin expanding our idea and our definition of what productivity is. Sometimes our job is to rest. Sometimes our job is to sit in the park and just stare up at the clouds. Sometimes our job is to simply be and allow things to emerge, allow things to evolve, and allow things to reveal themselves to us. I think of our current digital reality and how we consume more content in a week than some of our ancestors consumed in an entire lifetime. Our brains were not necessarily built or designed to always be interfacing with some sort of input. Our bodies need rest, right? We go to sleep, we take a nap. We have a massage, we take a hot bath, we give our body what it needs to relax and to recharge and to repair itself. The brain is a part of the body. And I think the brain and our creative energy and our creative force also needs time simply to be. I often talk about my love of farming and gardening. And one of the things that a gardener or a farmer will often do is once a field or a plot has been planted and harvested, they let it go fallow. They just let it be. They let it sit. They don't plant it for a season, or they give it a cycle, basically giving it some time off so that it can replenish and charge itself. Otherwise, it becomes depleted. Otherwise, it can no longer support the growth of the crop. And so it's important that we look to nature to see. She shows us everything that we need. There's a season for all things. There's a time for all things. And I think that what's really important, or at least one of the important things in this conversation with Karen today, is the very real fact that we need time to ourselves. We need time simply to be. We need time to give our systems a chance to reset and recharge and replenish before we go into active doing, creating, and accomplishing mode. So today's client call is the inaugural episode, and I'm really excited to share this with you. Today's call is with Karen. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy. So lovely to see you, Karen.
You too, Amar. It's lovely to see you.
I'm always so thrilled to see you. For those who, for a little bit of background, you and I have worked off and on over the years, both as client and
Yeah.
practitioner, and I was your client. And so I love this relationship that we have, and I'm thrilled to help you out today. So tell me, what is your question? What's on your mind? What's in your heart today?
So when I saw your post came up, I was so excited because I was putting out there that I needed a mentor session, and here you are. So my question, it involves, I suppose it's a little bit to do with spirit and then maybe a little bit to do with personal too. Over the last while, I've sort of questioned whether I'm procrastinating or blocking myself from what's coming in. Should it be constant momentum in order to sort of put things out and allow things in? Or if I feel like nothing's showing up, is that just a sign to sort of sit still and allow it? I'm kind of torn between how do I know when I can trust that I'm doing enough, you know what I mean? To kind of be open and surrender and allow three words I have struggled with, the big words. Um, but yeah, so I'm just kind of curious, is there a way to kind of trust intuition, or is this a personal thing? I mean, as you know, I'm an alpha Virgo like yourself. So maybe that's part of it. Maybe I'm just freaking out because I'm not like, filling all my time with lots of stuff. So yeah, that was my question.
Yeah. And we laugh at the Virgo thing, but it's very real, right? And especially as a fellow
Very.
entrepreneur and as a
Hmm.
fellow entrepreneur who works in the abstract, right?
Hmm.
You offer concrete services. I understand that. And what you do does reach a point of being a very concrete thing and delivered. But I also understand that your process is very intuitive, that your approach is very abstract, and that sometimes it's hard to tell, like, okay, is this the time where I just sit back and receive and allow, or is this the
Hmm.
time to put, pen to paper, so to speak? So let me ask you your normal approach to getting things done. Are you a list maker? Are you just sort of like you go with the flow all of the time? Or how do you normally find yourself getting things accomplished in your work?
So generally, I would be quite intuitive about it. I would, when I was in full production, yes, I'd have whiteboards and lists and things what to do. But again, the last few months have been this kind of, again, really big kind of crucial turning point in what I do, because what I do has now changed. I used to define myself by my work and was I busy, and I'm a graphic designer, but now I'm like, no, I'm going to be many things. And so that's been very destabilizing too. I've started doing sort of lists of things that I need to get done in a day, and but that's only recently. And I feel like that's another maybe spiritual shift, maybe something I let go of the idea of what I was or what I should be to be busy, and now I'm allowing sort of things flow. So it's spiritual with a hint of list making. my
I love
my
it.
fellow Virgos are now like throwing things at screens. Don't call yourself a
No,
Virgo.
just
Get out
do
of
it.
here.
Yes. Your card is revoked.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds to me like a couple of things are at play. It sounds to me like you are in kind of a transitional period, moving from one very specific and particular way of being and doing,
Yeah.
which sounds to me like in the past it was more about doing and then being came
Mhm.
second, right?
100%.
So when you're on this, in this transitional moment, which I call the bridge moment, when you're moving from one way or one experience or a relationship or a job or a home, whatever it is, and
Yeah.
transitioning into a new way, and especially when that new way isn't entirely locked in and isn't entirely clear,
Mhm.
um, sometimes it can be a little bit anxiety provoking,
Mhm.
because it is that sense of like, oh, is there, oh my God, am I doing it? Is it happening? It's like, how many times do I have to check and make sure I turned off the stove, right? It's that
That's
kind
it.
of like nagging anxiety. So I think there's a couple of things. I think there is a practical way to approach it. And then I think there is a more intuitive way too. And I think that it also sounds to me like this is kind of a marriage of the feminine being, allowing, just kind of going with the flow self, and then the masculine doing, to-do list, productive, get
Yeah.
things finished, everything's a nail when I have a hammer kind of perspective. So a couple of things come to mind. I think the first thing is I really like the idea of making lists, especially because I think it's important to have things be objective. And what I mean by that is it's one thing when it's just in our head and we're trying to juggle all of the things that we have to do, and we're, sort of having that internal dialogue with ourselves, or that struggle or juggling all of the time. So I like the idea of getting something on a piece of paper or in a document on a computer.
Yeah.
My favorite way is just post-its on the wall. And I love to just have them on the wall, like a collection of things that I have to do,
Yeah.
want to do, and just having kind of a cloud. So one thing that I will offer in terms of the practical side is having a list, what I call just a master list. And this is an approach that I have dubbed intuitive planning. And you just kind of put everything on there, from the mundane of like, I have to pay my rent on the 15th, I have to pay the light
Mm,
bill on the 5th, the first or whatever, to, taking time off, making sure I get my walk in, or making sure I go to the beach, or
okay.
whatever the things are that really are important for you to not only be successful in your job, but successful in your life. And so having this master list that we can constantly kind of check things on and check things off and put things back on, not only is it satisfying because we get that reward of seeing things checked off, but I think when it's something that's objective in front of us, it gives us a little bit more flexibility to play with it. And I have just a running to-do list that I check things off and then I put new things on, and it never is completed. That used to be something that made me really anxious, to have an experience of never seeing the list complete. But now it's actually something that I look forward to, because I get to decide
Yeah.
when I do things. Obviously, again, being bound by a calendar, sometimes we have to do things on a certain day. But by having just a big list of things that I always am aware of or want to do or am thinking about, that gives me a place where I can just park all of those ideas, responsibilities, hopes, dreams, wishes, etc. And so I always have that to access. A practical way that you could begin to kind of break it down is by the traffic light: red, yellow, green.
Yeah.
Like green, I have to do this today. It's the first and the thing is due, so I have to do it. Yellow is, I don't really have to. If I wanted to, I could play with it. If I wanted to, I could look at it. Red is absolutely nope, not going to do it, not necessary. I'm not going to
Mhm.
even bother with that because I'm just not feeling it. So that's one way you can begin to kind of organize it in your mind. Another way, and this is really my favorite way to engage with anything in life, is putting your hand on your heart and really asking yourself, as you're thinking about the thing, do I need to be a witness or do I need to be a participant?
Okay.
Is it something that I can still watch and play with? Because I think
Yeah.
that there's another thing at play. I think that where we are culturally and as a species is we are returning to a more organic, authentic, natural way of being, which is we just kind of go with the flow. Right? I think of the plants outside. When the sun shines, they have a very specific response to that.
Yeah.
When it's raining, they have a very specific response to that. When there's a drought, again, a very specific response. So I think when we allow ourselves to see that we're not separate from the energies that are moving through us and around us, whether that's my external or my internal environment, I remember that I'm a part of all of that. And the
Okay.
question to myself, do I need to witness or participate, can give me a little bit of insight as to where I can begin to start doing things like, okay, got to get it done, time to participate, time to roll up my sleeves and do it. And
Mm.
then the witnessing piece where I can go, well, yeah, let me play, let me brainstorm, let me maybe, let's say it's something you're writing, let me go through and make just a first draft edit. Let me go through and just the first 3 pages, I'll just look at them and see if anything needs to be played with or needs to be changed. Because I think the bigger thing that's at play is moving out of that old way of being, which was got to get it done, doesn't matter how I feel, no pain, no gain, like this sort of effort-based
Yeah.
approach, which, let's be honest, there are people who work 3 and 4 jobs and they're still coming up short.
Mhm.
So your effort is not always an indicator or a measure of your success. Right? Sometimes it's about, how do I feel when I'm doing it? Is this something that I even want to be doing? Is this
Mm.
something that feels easy? Does it feel light? So asking the witness or participant question, I think, is a great way to move into a deeper relationship with whatever's in front of you and asking it from a different perspective, so it's not so black and white. And there's one more piece. What if the things on your list were things that you could say, rather than having to do it, I'm just going to play with it?
Yeah.
How is all
Yeah.
this feeling and sounding?
No, it really is. And I think like I actually have it here. Like I started my sort of journal where I put like a little tick boxes and I have all the stuff. But the only things really listed in that are work related. And I love that what you said there, like about put in everything that I want to do in the day. Like I was only just thinking, Jesus, I haven't been outside for a walk in, a couple of days. And I live in this beautiful place. So like, put that in, put in everything that I want into this kind of idea. And I think that idea of stopping with the the hand on the heart, the witness, participate, brings in the spirit and intuitive end of stuff, which is why we're talking about this difference between being and doing. You know what I mean? Because I think I have learned to tune into that. I've had to let go of the old way of working and the old way, and follow curiosity and follow intuition. And there's been times I've sat down to do something because I have to get it done. And it's like, no, spirit's like, no, no, this isn't happening. I'll turn that computer off if you want. I'll shut the power down if you want me to. And I'm like, okay, I will walk
Yeah.
away. Thanks.
Yeah, because I think that that's where we are right now. And, I think the past 3 years when the world was shut down, we began to ask those questions kind of collectively and say, is there another way? Does it have to be like this? Do I have to work 80 hours a week to get it done? Do I have to always go to a remote location, go to the office necessarily to be productive and to do my job? And I think we were really surprised, I think, by a lot of the answers that we found. And I'm with you. Like, there are things that are built into my day that I just do without even thinking about it. Like, having my coffee time in the morning and having my journaling or meditation time. And I often forget to put those things on my list.
Yeah.
I often am just so task oriented that it's something that I have to do. So by, I think, increasing the scope of what a day means for you ensures that the feminine, receptive, nonlinear, illogical, I just want to be self is also given as much focus as the masculine, got to do it, roll up your sleeves and just get it done self, and allowing yourself to encompass all of it and then put it all in the same pot. And that way you're always productive. And I'll tell you, I even have on my calendar, I have days that I call a zero tasking day. And I have days where specifically I say, because what I find, and I know you know this as an entrepreneur, even our days off are spent thinking about work, working on the thing, sending an email, doing the draft, doing the document. So I have a day in my calendar where it is my day to do nothing. Now, if there are things that end up happening because of work, that's fine. But the idea is I don't have to do anything on this day. And I have that blocked out on my calendar 1 day a week where I say this.
A week. I was going to say, is it not 1 day a year? You're like, yeah, fine, 1 day a year. My Alpha Virgo will allow me 1 day off a year.
Yeah. I have one cheat day a year.
It's
no,
29th of February every year.
Exactly. So I think that when we just remind ourselves, like you said, like you live in a beautiful place, you live really, really close to the ocean. So you have this opportunity to really make the most of that. And as we were chatting before we got on here, I know you didn't move to this beautiful place in the country just to have the same life when you were, nose to the grindstone sort of perspective when you were working so hard. And I find that more gets done, or at least the things that really matter get done when I allow them to get done.
Yeah.
Rather than
what came through a lot though when you were talking there about like the divine feminine, that kind of, slightly, intuitive, not doing. I think that maybe what was throwing me for the last while is that she's been kind of in charge because she had to be. It was so out of balance. I was so in that divine masculine, do. Oh my God, this is what we have to get done next. That the shift into that space was like, whoa, this feels wrong. This is not right. When in fact, this allows for both. I do need to allow both. And what I love is that idea of putting all of this into one space means it's you stop seeing the day as work tasks to be done. If I'm talking about having a cup of coffee, doing my meditation, going for a walk by the sea, that's not like quick march out the door again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 15 minutes to walk. Yeah.
This is the best walk you've ever had in your world. Go for it. It sort of softens everything, doesn't it? It's when you're putting all of that into the list to kind of tick off everything that gets done.
Yeah. And if you are, it also, I think, allows room for your personality and your persona. If you are a person who just likes to have it more structured, then you say, okay, I have 45 minutes to walk, right? There's nothing wrong with having a measured or, having boundaries around the time that you spend doing things. So it allows you to also serve the part of you that does like things to be a little bit more regimented, that does like things to be a little bit more specific.
Yeah.
And by allowing all of you to be in the room, and if you do have that little worrywart who gets nervous about, oh my God, I'm not doing things, you can just stop and pull it close and say, baby, what else would you be doing right now?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what on earth is more important right now than having this delicious meal or looking at the sea or just sitting and marveling at the beauty of the place that you found yourself in? So I think it's about quality and quantity. Right? It's about doing and being. And I think that the challenge for a lot of humans right now is figuring out how to give space to both of them, and then not feeling guilty or not feeling like I'm slacking because I'm not always doing. But our productivity is not only measured by what we can affect and what we can create. When I feel good, I do good work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's about impact, isn't it? It's about, like, if you did 5 minutes of work that had this impact on more people than 10 hours of killing yourself, and I'm loving, like, at the moment, like, the universe is sending me lots of, like, people coming up, and, like, people I don't even know are saying, like, how are you doing? How's work? Are you busy? And the look on their face when I say no, or what are you doing now? I don't really know. It hasn't shown itself to me. It's just blank, no
Yeah.
information on this. Don't know what to say to
Yep.
you. And I'm like, well, that's where I'm at. So that's, I've got used to saying that now. I don't know what work is. It's forming itself into some kind of new picture. I had to let go of, as I said, go back to zero with everything that I thought it was about and what it was, going to be, to allow it to show itself. So, and that's, as you can imagine, Virgo sun, Aquarian moon, Cap rising, not great. Like, Aquarius fine with that. The rest of
Yeah.
me's like,
It's a lot. It's a lot. And especially when we are still, again, in that in-between place where we don't really
I love
necessarily
that, the
have
bridge.
the new routine, it can
Yeah,
feel a little daunting. It can feel a little daunting. So I think it's about remembering that you're doing this in a co-creative partnership with spirit, right? You're not doing it alone. And, we don't live in a punitive reality. And so if you
mm,
miss a beat or you do let something slide, it's not the end of the world, right?
yeah,
It'll
come
come
back.
back around, and giving yourself that birth to say, I don't know, we'll figure it out when we get there.
Yeah.
Right? There's a time and a place for a plan. There's a time and a place for decisive action. And I would never be one to say, just sort of go through life with your hands off the wheel. But at the same time, I think so much effort is wasted, and we find ourselves, reaching so many dead ends because we just tried to force it.
Yeah.
And so, going back to that, do I need to participate or just witness right now? That, I
Mm.
think, can give us a deeper sense of what's present. And sometimes just giving ourselves permission to not do anything is what allows the inspiration to arrive. Yeah.
100%. That's exactly what has happened, and that is literally it. Once I recognized, what, look, as you said, it's not punitive. It's absolutely working in my best interests. And of course it's bringing me to an answer or to a place that I need to be. So just allow that part
Yeah.
to happen. And that whole thing, once you actually do learn to surrender, it shows up. It's just, sometimes that's a lesson I have to be sort of shown again and again. But it's definitely getting more into a trust space with that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And if you want a little mantra for a post-it, which I have them all over my desk area and usually on my monitor, I don't have to know how it's working out to trust that it is.
Oh, that is glorious. I don't have to know how it's working out to trust that it
Trust that it
is. I
is.
think
Yeah.
I might get that tattooed next
Tattooed
to
on your, I've got them
just
spaced right
so
here.
no post-its. I'll be like Memento. It'll just be
Right,
like,
exactly.
make a list, go for a walk. I'll tattoo.
Yeah. And then you can just get a dry erase
Just stick
marker and
it,
check it off every day.
yeah.
Beautiful. Well, it was so lovely to chat with you,
Thank
Karen.
you so much, Amar. I so appreciate this. And
You're
thank you
welcome,
for
love.
putting the call out. As I said, I put a call out for a mentor, and, like, there you came.
And
You
here I
answered
am.
it back.
And here I
Wonderful.
am.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, friend. Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the first ever installment of Client Calls on the Luminous. If you are interested in participating and would like to be on one of these episodes, you can email me directly. That email address is podcast@amar.energy. That's podcast@amar.energy. And in the subject line, simply put client calls, and then let me know whatever your question, your concern, your curiosity is. And if I feel it's appropriate for one of these episodes, I'll respond and let you know. You can find my website at amar.energy. There you can access my booking calendar if you're interested in one-on-one work, my event listings. You can also sign up for my newsletter. Again, the video installments of this series are going to be on my YouTube channel, which is Amar Energy. You can also find me on Instagram at Amar Energy and theluminous.podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. I love you.